Screenwriters talk screenwriting. Screenwriters talk screenwriting.
Happy holidays, and welcome to another episode of Screenwriters Talk Screenwriting. The holidays are here, and I'm currently writing a new Christmas rom-com titled The Christmas Caller. And while I'm doing my research, I've been listening to several episodes of the Christmas Movie Screenwriter podcast, which I was a guest on last year. And I asked if I could replay the episode I was on my podcast. And the host, Karen McCann, kindly said yes. If you're looking to write a Christmas script, I highly recommend this podcast. Also, I have a new course on my website about writing a Christmas movie. It's called Write a Christmas Movie, Holiday Screenwriting. You can find that on my website at www.jordanimiola.com. There's no better time to write a Christmas movie than during the holiday season. And this course will teach you how to write a Christmas movie using examples from A Christmas Story, Home Alone, Christmas Vacation, Elf, and more. If you want to write a Christmas movie, I suggest taking that course and listening to the Christmas Movie Screenwriter podcast. Enjoy this replay of episode 11 of the Christmas Movie Screenwriter podcast.
This is the Christmas Movie Screenwriter podcast, episode number 11. Hello and welcome to the Christmas Movie Screenwriter podcast. I'm your host, Karen McCann. The Christmas Movie Screenwriter is a podcast about writing, producing, and selling Christmas movies. I publish a transcript with every episode in case you want to look at something or read it later. Just go to the website at www.christmasmoviescreenwriter.com and look for this episode, which is number 11. A quick few words about what I'm working on. I am just about finished with the rewrite of a Christmas script. I gave myself till end of January, so it looks very good. And now before I do any rewrites on this one, I'm going to write another script. That way, I think it'll be easier to do rewrites on my current script because there'll be a little more time between the first draft and subsequent rewrites. I also plan to enter a European screenwriting contest. I've never entered one before, so a European one before, so this is a new approach. I'll let you know in the fall if I had any luck. I'm also toying with the idea of rewriting a holiday script to be shot in China or Taiwan. As some of you know, I lived in Hong Kong and China, so always am attracted to Asian stories. So that's an idea I need to decide on. So many ideas, so little time, as they say. And now, here is the main segment. Jordan Imiola is a comedy screenwriter from Buffalo, New York. He has sold several screenplays and is the showrunner of many comedy series. During the pandemic lockdown in 2020, Jordan wrote and directed the award-winning feature film Zoom comedy Christmas Staycation, now streaming on Tubi and on DVD everywhere. Jordan's newest feature rom-com, Love at First Spite, is in post-production. Jordan's newest Christmas movie, My Fiancé Still Believes in Santa, is in pre-production. Well, Jordan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
Now, can you just take a minute? And I told the audience a little bit about you, but let's hear more. Let's take a minute and tell us about yourself and your work.
Yeah, sure. So I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. I love it. And then I went to college at Buff State, which is a college over here. I kind of accidentally fell into writing there. I took a TV writing class and I fell in love with it. And so I kept, and then they had a new major called TV and Film Arts. So I was in that first class. It's only like 15 people a year get accepted. And I was in that first class. And pretty much in that major, they teach you how to, write movies and TV shows and produce. We did a bunch of short films we had to direct and produce. And then they help you get internships. And I got an internship with Fox in 2009. And so pretty much I spent the summer before I graduated, I spent in LA, interned at Fox, and then did one more semester at Buffalo State, and then graduated. And a week later, I drove across country and lived in LA for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then the pandemic just changed everything. But I got to produce a Christmas movie, which was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And then my wife and I moved back to Buffalo last year and got a house because we could afford a nice house over here. Nice. And I'm still writing a ton. I'm still I feel like nothing's compared to LA, like I'm still writing this. I'm actually maybe writing more here.
Really? Okay, good.
Yeah, because
Good.
I love the seasons. I love the season change, and that always helps
Yeah,
me with deadlines. Like whenever, like summertime, every summer I have like one dedicated screenplay I'm going to finish. When it comes into fall, I'm like, I want to write something Halloween, and I can just feel, I can see the leaves out here. And then for the holiday time, I tend to write or rewrite a Christmas screenplay. So right now I'm rewriting something I wrote last year. I guess I'll talk about that. Sure. Trading Holidays is the film I'm writing right now. And it's about three families. One celebrates Christmas, one celebrates Hanukkah, one celebrates Kwanzaa, and they trade holidays
Oh, that's
in the month of
neat.
December. Yeah. So
That's great. Well, you
yeah.
sort of answered my first question, which how did you break into the? Well, my first question is, can you share your journey of breaking into the industry as a Christmas movie screenwriter? Was Staycation your first Christmas movie, or was there something else?
Produced my first Christmas movie produced, but I probably wrote a few before that. I wrote My Fiance Still Blues in Santa. I wrote that originally 2018. Yeah, I think I wrote that. It's so much easier to write a Christmas movie around the holiday time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So like I always try to whenever the day after Thanksgiving hits, I'm like, all right, I'm plugging in at this holiday movie, Christmas movie. But then as soon as January 2nd comes, like January 2nd, I'm like, I'm over it. I'm like, okay. Again, like I use the seasons to my advantage, or use the holidays in the year to my advantage to write. But I think I probably wrote like 3 or 4 other Christmas movies. But Christmas Staycation, how that came about was 2020, was the worst year ever.
Right. Yeah.
I lived in the middle of Hollywood, and we were in lockdown for so much longer than like everywhere else. But I went back home to Buffalo for Christmas that year, and everything was open. But here or in LA, everything was closed. But anyways, how that came about is I think I was depressed for like 4 or 5 months. And then I was like, everything I wrote, I just did not like in that year. I just, the energy for that year was sad, right. Too sad. But then I thought of the idea. I'm like, well, no one can really travel home for the holidays, or they're not supposed to travel home for the holidays this year because the, COVID and pandemic and all that. And I was like, well, what if I wrote a movie about a family who can't see each other or can't be with each other on Christmas, but they decide to throw a Christmas party on Zoom?
Yeah.
And then I kind of just I had that idea, and I kind of worked backwards from that. And I was like, okay, I got the main character, and she has to convince her dad that this is going to be fun, and convince her family to come along and like make the best of it. And and I pretty much just recruited a bunch of my actor friends, and we would do table reads before we shot it. And we just had a blast making it. Like it was just something to do because none of us could really leave our houses at that point.
Smart.
So we just, and it was so much faster than like real life production because it's all on Zoom.
And saves money.
Yeah. It saved us a ton of money. And then we made it, and it turned out really funny, and I loved it. I still love it. And we got distribution. We finished it like December 10th, and just put it on YouTube. And we had like a YouTube premiere just for like the cast and crew. And then they shared it with all their friends and family on YouTube. And then, and then I found distribution for it like the following year. Cause it kind of people were talking about it. And then, I got distribution 2021, and then it got on DVD and on Tubi and a bunch of other streaming services.
Oh, great. Congrats. So how do you balance meeting audience expectations and staying fresh and not predictable or cliche?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. I would say, for me, I write a lot of comedy. So I think, in terms of like expectations, you want to make people laugh. And I think when anything I write, I do multiple table reads of it. Every time I finish a draft, I'll do a table read of it, and then do another draft, and then do a table read with that. And a table read, if anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's when you get a bunch of friends together or actors. Usually, a lot of my friends are actors. We do it mostly on Zoom now because again, the pandemic changed everything. We kind of read the whole thing out loud. I divvy up parts to all my friends, And then we read the whole thing, and then I kind of keep track of like when there's a big laugh or if a joke doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So any jokes that don't work, I will tweak to make them funnier, or I just cut them all together. But you can really like feel the rhythm of each scene too, to see if a scene's too short or too long or not funny or funny or blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I think, and then in terms of keeping it fresh, I just try to do things that have never been done before. A Christmas movie on Zoom was never been done before. So
Yeah, that was smart. That's smart.
yeah, and it was very current at the time because that's what everyone was doing in their meetings. I mean, my job, I was working for a production company at the time, and come March 13th, they're like, never go back to the office ever again. So everything was on Zoom. So it was very current to that year.
Yeah.
If you watch the movie, it's the movie's still hilarious. There's jokes that I think,
yeah. I thought it was great. Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love the older woman character, the looking for Whoopi. So audience, you have to watch it to figure that out.
Yeah.
Now, after you finish a script and it's ready to go out, what's your next step? And how do you move it towards getting into pre-production or into production?
So if it's something I'm trying to sell, I feel like for me, sometimes I write something and I'm like, okay, I want to make this myself. And I can kind of get people like Christmas Vacation. I did that, instead of trying to sell it out there, I made it myself. And when I write those scripts, I tend to like think about that as I'm writing them. Like, okay, how is this going to keep it low budget? How is it going to be possible for me to make this? Who do I know who could play this part? But on the other side, if I'm trying to sell a script, after I'm done with it, so I kind of, I'll write a first draft, and first draft is always just for me. I tend to write first drafts, I don't know, in like 3 or 4 months. I do that just for me. Yeah. And my whole thing is I usually write them out of order, and then I put them in order, and have a really terrible first draft, but I can understand it. And then I kind of cut things and change things and make things funnier. And then my second draft or third draft, that's the first one I share with other people. And I just share that with friends, or I'll do table read with friends that I know who, that I trust. I never really try to go like outside my circle in those first few drafts. But then once I do that, and I have a couple table reads, and I know the script is getting into good shape and everything's making sense and the rhythm's good and the jokes work. Once it's in good shape, I will try to sell it or option it. And I will, for that, let's see, I actually teach a whole class about this, but I pretty much find production companies that, if it's a Christmas scripts, I find production companies who make Christmas movies. For me, I'm mostly into comedies. I try to find, comedy production companies. You never really want to reach out to a production company who doesn't work in your genre, because you're just kind of like wasting time on both ends. But you want to make sure you find a production company that's in your genre. So a lot of times I'll go on IMDb Pro and find a production company, or if I have like, some connections somehow, I'll reach out to those connections. Sometimes if I find a producer who does certain type of movies, like certain genres, or say I wrote like a family comedy, I'll find a producer who does family comedies, see if they're on Instagram, or see if they're on Twitter. Yeah. Many people don't think about that, but like especially it's Instagram, you can message anyone. Doesn't mean they're going to reply back. It's like a 1 in 10 chance, but still, if I send out 100 messages on Instagram, 10 of them are going to get back to me usually.
Are you just trying to start a relationship on those Instagram messages, or are you saying, hey, I've got the script, would you like to look at a synopsis?
It kind of depends. I would say sometimes, because I do have my own podcast too, and sometimes I just try to make relationships on Instagram, or just I want to pick their brain.
Right.
But if I'm trying to if I'm just trying to sell it, I just sometimes just send them a log line, and a very short message. You want to send a log line. Log line is usually 30 words or less. Don't go more than 30 words. But a message that's not too long, because if it's too long, no one's going to read it. But if you have like a short message and it's like, oh, it kind of grabs their attention, that might be like, oh, okay, send me a PDF of the script. And there's also like services you can use too. Like I do screenwriting staffing. And with screenwriting staffing, pretty much, I wouldn't recommend it unless you have a lot of scripts. But but with that, it's like a monthly service you pay for, and a lot of producers will say what they're looking for. Like for example, I sold a script on that.
That's great.
And it was about this actress was looking for some role she could play. So it had to be a female-led comedy. I can't remember what else she was looking for, but pretty much I had a movie about a woman who hates kids and ends up adopting the worst kid imaginable. And it's kind of like it's like her journey of becoming a mom and like thinking how much she's gonna hate it. But then in the end, she's like, oh my gosh, I actually love being a mom. And it's like, and the kid, it's kind of the same thing where he doesn't want parents, but then he ends up like trusting this person. But yeah, anyways, screenwriting staffing is how I found that. And sometimes they have Christmas leads too. They'll be like, we're looking for a holiday movie that takes place in Canada, or takes place in like, they do like one locations, or they look for specific things.
Okay.
And I've tried also multiple different services. A lot of them you got to pay for, and a lot of them like aren't really worth it.
Okay.
So,
right.
But I'll just try to I'll try all things I can until someone, wants the script. There's also like virtual pitch fest and stuff like that. But a lot of it is also like just, you have to not keep asking, but you have to keep in contact with them constantly. Not constantly, but like every 2 or 3 weeks, you kind of reach out, be like, hey, did you get a chance to read the script? Or, like, hey, happy Thanksgiving. Just to remind them like, hey, I exist. You have my scripts. Can you read it?
That's right.
And I mean, for me, a lot of times after like 7 or 8 times, they finally read the script and they're like, oh my gosh, I love the script. And I'm like, I'm glad I emailed you so much.
Well, persistence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You need a lot of persistence in this.
Now, how would you balance, the Christmas elements with other genres? I mean, you've got the comedy genre, which you mentioned, but something maybe like a heist to create something unique and appealing. Would that be interesting? Or do you think buyers would be interested in that?
If they make those type of movies, or if they have like an actor in mind for type of movies, I would definitely say so. Or if you have like a log line that's so good, like, if someone's trying to steal, I don't know, the Rockefeller Christmas tree, like how are you gonna do that? But like there
you go. That's your next script.
Yeah. A very expensive script, but but if you have something that's gonna like, if you're going to interest a producer who has money, that's a good thing. Like whatever's going to make them be like, oh, I got to read the script. I want to know what the story is.
Right.
That's how you do it. So yeah, I think you can mix genres as long as it's interesting enough to the person who wants to buy it or make it.
Right. Now, how would you suggest screenwriters expand their network of producers? And you did mention the virtual pitch fest and screenwriting staffing. But do you recommend like film markets? If so, which ones, or competitions? Or, I mean, you did mention online platforms like those two above.
Yeah. That is a good question. I don't know if I
do you go to film markets?
No, I don't really go to film markets too much.
Okay. Interesting.
I don't think if I've done it, if I have before.
Okay. Wow. So this is great. I mean, this is new. I think, sometimes walking around AFM where you are walking 5 miles a day down those halls, I mean, it really adds up. But there's a million ways in. Would you, besides anything, do you recommend competitions or any other ways for screenwriters to network with producers?
If your script is super, super good, yes. I've entered, I feel like I entered a ton of competitions for like the first 5 years I was in LA, and a lot of them cost money, so you're spending $20 here, $40 here. And it can add up
60 or 80.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So like if your script has to be in top-notch shape, and I would have other people read it before you submit it. Don't make the first person you're submitting it to someone over there. Like give it to a friend, have someone proofread it, make sure the grammar's correct. If it's a comedy, make sure it's funny. If it's a horror, make sure it's scary. Because I feel like I won a competition once, and it didn't really affect the script at all, because I sold that script, but it had nothing to do with kind of the competition, which was like funny to me. So you
just never know.
Yeah, you really don't. Yeah, you really never know. But I would say if you're gonna do some, like only do a handful. Like choose the ones you really think you have a shot at, or like the prize is worth
Right.
it, or like because like yeah, if you do all of them, the money will like
Add
add
up.
up so much, and like it might just be better for you to like just take that money and make your own movie.
There,
Um,
there you go. Yeah, I like that.
yeah,
I like that idea better. Now,
yeah,
you sort of answered my next question, which was, do you attend film markets to pitch your projects? So the answer is no.
no, not
But
really. Yeah,
do you? So you're pitching them yourself. You don't? Do you try to find a representative, or do you have a rep?
I did, and they didn't really do anything for me.
Oh, okay, that's
So,
good to know. That's good to know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I had an agent one time, and like she promised a bunch, and then I never really saw it delivered. And then she like quit. She quit during the pandemic, so like I
Oh,
never saw her again.
oh, well, that answers that.
Yeah, yeah. So like I do, yeah, I pretty much like do a lot myself, but I think
DIY.
the yeah, but the more I do, the more I kind of build up that like resume, and like
Right, right.
people see like I've done, and a lot of stuff I've done is like short stuff. So if people want to see things I've done, they can just like go out. Like I have a series called Monster Therapy, and it's about monsters and marriage therapy. So it's like
That's great.
Jason Voorhees and his wife, or Freddy Krueger and his wife and stuff. And like all those are like they're like 2.5 minutes long, so people can watch that in like 2.5 minutes, kind of get an idea of like what I write,
Okay.
and then they like reach out. So I think it's good to have some short stuff, because like if you have, if you do a movie, that's dedication. That's a whole 2 hour block
Right.
of someone's time. But asking someone to watch something for 2.5 minutes, everyone does that pretty much every day on YouTube anyway.
Yeah.
So
That's good. That's
yeah,
good to know. So
yeah.
what is your favorite script that you've written and why?
Ooh, what's my favorite script I've ever written and why? That is a good question. Because a lot of times I'm like, if I'm really into something, it's like my favorite thing at that time.
Right.
But then when I look back years later, or like, because a lot of some scripts that are like the most successful for me aren't necessarily my favorite thing, and some of my favorite things had never gotten made. But the one I'm thinking about though right now, maybe it's because it's the holiday time, and maybe because I'm on a Christmas podcast, but it's probably My Fiance Still Believes in Santa.
Okay. That's good answer.
It's still one of my favorites. I wrote the first draft in like a month and a half, and then I punched it up here and there. But it's got everything I love when I watch a movie. It's got a lot of good jokes. It's got a lot of comedy. It's got a lot of heart. It's got relationship struggles. A lot of family stuff. The log line for that is pretty much about a guy who wants to ask his girlfriend to marry him, but when he asks her family for their blessing, they tell him, listen, she has not stopped believing in Santa Claus for 35 years. And if you're going to ask her, you have to do this for the rest of your life. You have to find a Santa to come down the chimney every single year. And he wants to like take her to see his family that Christmas. So, and it takes place in Buffalo and in Cape Cod. So he wants to take her to Cape Cod, and he has to now convince his family that A, she's not crazy, and B, can you help me find someone to go down the chimney on Christmas Eve so she can see Santa? And then
that's very cute.
Yeah, and then find the logistics of like getting, Santa back on the roof or whatever. So yeah, it's like I've optioned it a couple times, and I've gotten super close to making it, and then like things happen, like the SAG strike,
Right.
or the pandemic, so
Right.
every time the script's like not available, or something happens, and then it becomes available again. So if anyone's listening and they have money and they want to make it, let me know, because that script is available right now.
All right. Well, we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Now that leads in that perfectly. You kind of set this up. Leads, having a script fall through, or getting close with the pandemic, or people fall out is stressful. So getting a movie made can be stressful. So how do you maintain a work-life balance? Do you have any hobbies?
Besides writing, I mean, I guess writing isn't really. My wife always tells me, she's like, you need to get more hobbies, because like all you do is write. But
you got podcasts.
Yeah. I got a podcast which is also about screenwriting. That's the Deadline Junkies screenwriting podcast. And we interview TV showrunners and TV writers and some movie writers as well. But yeah, what else do I do? I mean, it's weird. Like all my hobbies somehow have to do with writing. Like if I watch TV, I'm kind of thinking in the background, like, oh, that joke was so good, or like, I'm like, I think about the ending or how it's going to end or whatever. But yeah, what else do I do besides?
Well, you're dedicated. You're dedicated.
Yeah. I would say making your own stuff too. Like if I can do a short film and like I really have a small amount of time, I will do that. Like I went camping like a month ago, and my friends and I were all drinking, and my friend was like, we should make a short film. And I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. And then the next day when they were all sober, I'm like, okay, guys, I got the script. Let's do this. And they were like, what? So
Well,
I kind of had to force them to like do it. But like I was like, you guys are so gung-ho about this at 3 a.m. Like, why not now? So
yeah. When the sun rises, who knows?
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to your younger self?
Ooh. I don't know. That is a good question. Because I mean, I feel like we don't, as you get older, you don't realize how hard it is to like break in or just like make a movie or sell. But I don't know if I would tell myself that, because I might discourage myself. So, but I would say, what advice would I give to my younger self? You know what? Write every day.
There you go.
I think that's something I'm better at now. And I've been pretty good with it, but I think if you're serious about screenwriting, you have to write every day, or at least like I do the 5 minute a day rule, where it's like before I go to bed, I wrote for at least 5 minutes, or like I open the script on my computer and I like punched up some jokes or whatever. But like usually if you do 5 minutes, sometimes your brain wants to go into gear and do a lot more. Or sometimes it's just like, nah, I don't want to, but at least it stays in your subconscious. So the next day it's going to be easier for you to think about what you wrote or the script itself or whatever. So yeah, I'd say write every day if you're young, or even if you're, just getting into screenwriting and you're a lot older, like just get into the habit of looking at your script for 5 minutes a day or more.
That's doable. That's good. That's good advice.
Yeah.
So to wrap up, would you like to share any social media details or website links so our audience can keep track of your work?
Yeah, sure. I'm on Instagram and I'm on Twitter. I don't really post on either one too much, though, honestly. But it's just my name. It's Jordan Imiola. So JordanImiola. And that's it. Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Twitter. That's about it.
And your podcast is called Deadline Junkies?
Yeah, the Deadline Junkies screenwriting podcast. Yeah, it's a writing group that I was a part of for like 12 years. And I ran the Wednesday.
Good.
Yeah, it's a great, you know what? Some other advice too is have deadlines, because it's great about Deadline Junkies. Yeah. It's a writing group where every 5 weeks you have to present 25 new pages.
Wow, that's
so
great.
Every 5, yeah. So I've written like, I don't know, 20, 30 movies. And then
that's impressive.
15 TV shows, but it's because I had that deadline for so long. Every 5 weeks I have that deadline. And if people couldn't make their deadline, I would be like, hey, I can take your spot if you want. And then I would just, because when you have that deadline and you have a table read with like actors and other people watching, it kind of puts pressure on yourself.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
You want to make it good. So,
how many people were in the writing group?
Oh, so when I started in 2010, it was Tuesday nights. Every Tuesday night we meet at a theater. And back then it was probably like, it was 15 writers in the group, and then actors. There was always like 10 actors there. But we had actors who would come. You kind of choose the actors yourself. So there's probably like, I don't know, 30 or 40 actors and then 15 writers in that Tuesday group. But then over the years, it expanded to other nights. So now it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And every night, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are the comedy nights. Mondays more drama. Thursday and Sunday are like a mix. And they're on Zoom too now. I think Mondays is still goes in the theater, but like when the pandemic happened, they all went on Zoom. But I mean, that it also doing it on Zoom though saved us money, because when you did it in the theater, you had to like print the scripts out and then highlight all the scripts, and printing all the scripts out.
No.
Yeah. It was like,
okay. Yeah. Well, maybe we could talk offline. I want to start my own little writers group, maybe a Christmas writers group.
Nice.
And
cool.
I'm not sure how to go about it or how many people I need, but I never even thought, which is a great idea, is having actors
do the
table read.
Yeah.
Okay.
They make it better, because like a lot of times for me, like when I question a joke and then I hear an actor do it out loud and they make it funny, then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that joke was funny. It was just, I question, because the longer you have a joke, the less funny it is to you.
Right.
But like sometimes when it's fresh with someone else, or you hear someone say it out loud, it helps so much. Or sometimes like actors will like say a word wrong, but it's funnier the way they said it. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to put it in the script like the way they said it. So yeah. It always helps to have actors.
I definitely, you have encouraged me and inspired me. So thank you. Jordan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This is very informative and very useful. And I am going to start a writers group. So hello, Christmas writers out there. You can you could comment on this podcast on the blog and let me know if you're interested. But Jordan, thank you so much for coming on the Christmas Movie Screenwriter podcast.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll see you later.
Cool. Happy holidays too.
Happy holidays. And now for my takeaways. I have 5 from my interview with Jordan. Number 1, selling a script. First, share your script with friends. And then, after some rewrites, do a table read with actors. Once it's in good shape, try to option it. Find production companies that specialize in Christmas movies. Look on IMDb Pro. Talk to your connections. See if the producers you want to contact are on Instagram or Twitter, also known as X. It's probably a better hit rate than a cold email. Number 2, instant messaging producers. Jordan mentioned there are 2 scenarios to message a producer. One is to start a dialogue, pick their brain, and hopefully develop a rapport. The second is to pitch your logline. If you do send a logline, keep it under 30 words, and obviously all instant messages have to be short. Number 3, paid screenwriting services. Jordan, although had success with one service, he cautions that a lot of them, in his words, are a waste of time. Contests are another tricky service. Do your due diligence. Are the prizes worth it? Is there feedback? Know your budget. Would using that money instead for a short film be better spent? Number 4, getting read. Producers get tons of emails every day. It's hard for writers to stay on top of a producer's mind. On the other hand, if you send a script to a producer, don't sit back and wait for a reply. Jordan says sometimes he emails a producer over several months, 7 to 8 times, asking if they've read the script. Only after the 8th time does he get a reply. Number 5, deadlines. Jordan credits the deadlines set by his writers group has enabled him to complete dozens of scripts. It helps being in writers groups or having an accountability buddy. But regardless, you need to set deadlines and review them. Chunk down your writing goals into small increments. It will be easier to tackle that way. Well, that's the show. Thank you for listening. To show your support, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple or wherever you get your podcasts, and sign up to be notified of the launch of our membership website. This is where writers will have the opportunity to pitch producers their Christmas scripts. Just go to www.christmasmoviescreenwriter.com and look for the sign up button in the toolbar. I'm your host, Karen McCann. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next Christmas Movie Screenwriter podcast. Bye.
You can find the Christmas Movie Screenwriter podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you podcast. Hope you have the happiest of holidays. And again, if you're looking to take a course on how to write a Christmas movie, check out my course, Write a Christmas Movie, Holiday Screenwriting, on my website at www.jordanimiola.com. Now, here's the joke of the podcast. What goes oh, oh, oh? Santa walking backward.